We're back, babies. The charity stripe, pitch your free throws because they are free. Joshua Fisher, Alexander Tossman, Dr. Sopoulos, Nicky Snaxx, Kreider. The boys are here. It's Monday evening. Releasing the podcast on Tuesday. We're live on Believe on Monday evening. Nicky's throwing stuff, tosses in his new apartment. And he had to put the light on in the back. Thank you for that, Nick. We really needed that. And there's been a lot that's going on in the wide world of sports, particularly at the end of last week. Just to recap what we're going to be getting into, Zach Wilson goes down with an injury, creating all the speculation. Did the Jets turn to Flacco? Did they try to compete with the roster people thought they could be a sneaky team with and go get Jimmy G? We have the Fernando Tatis scandal now. There's been 9 million rumors on why he took the steroids, but he's suspended for 80 games. And, of course, the AP poll is out, and the Texas Longhorns not in it.
Are you mad at that?
Yeah, I'll tell you. We'll start there. Actually, I'm not mad. I'm not disappointed. I'm not surprised.
Look,
but I saw the quote. There was a Rex Ryan quote, and I never thought Rex Ryan was the greatest of coaches, but I always thought he had a lot of really good quotes, and it's been circulating around the reels of Instagram. And he was basically like, last year we were under the radar. Now there's high expectations. Being under the radar is good. Fuck that. You want the expectations to be high. I want expectations to be high for the Horns. Isaiah Nayer's out for the year. We lose our center for the season, which that's a really big loss.
Junior Angole,
but
yep.
Isaiah Nayer, for him going down, obviously is very detrimental. But we still have Xavier Worthy, who caught 12 touchdowns as a freshman. Bijan Robinson is expected to be one of the best, if not the best, running back in the nation. Our quarterback play last year wasn't good. We were flip-flopping between Card and Thompson. We settle on Thompson. He looks to be the guy. He gets injured. Now he's out of town.
And apparently he's struggling too.
Yeah, I mean, Quinn, and you get Quinn Ewers, who's, if not for Arch Manning, the guy, top-rated prospect ever to come in. So I would love for expectations to be high. The offense, honestly, I'm really not worried about. It's a defensive situation. But I look at the AP poll, and I look at it, and we know there's going to be a team in the top 10 that drops out. Maybe that even is unranked by the end of the year. We know there's a team that's unranked. Could be us. Could be Tennessee. Could be LSU. Could be UCLA for all we know that jumps in there. But I think I'm not mad, but I would have liked to see us get in there. It would have been nice.
Well, we also add a healthy Jordan Whittington, someone that we love. Hall from Bama got in trouble, but we'll see if he gets to play again. They don't really know exactly what happened. I know he got arrested under mischievous criminal activity. We get a new tight end, big tight end for Bama as well, Billingsley, who I am really high on. So it's not just, Xavier Worthy and Bijan Robinson. Yes, the Nayer injury hurts, but I think if he wasn't transferring in, this would have been our offense. So I think we'll be okay there. But we are always ranked so high, or we're always ranked coming into the preseason, and we don't exceed expectations. We fall flat of the expectations. And I think now is a good time for Texas to have a chip on its shoulder, where people make fun of us all the time for being back, or for just anything that happens with NIL, or anything that happens with transfers, or even when we signed Arch Manning, people were giving us flack because they're thinking Arch Manning maybe makes a mistake, taking the money over, going to a better program. But play with the chip on your shoulder, because all these guys have chips on their shoulders. I know Quinn Ewers does. I mean, he transferred from Ohio State, and he wants to prove that he is worthy of being a starting quarterback. And I'm sure he wants to go to the league in a couple of years. And Xavier Worthy probably plays with a chip on his shoulder because he's not getting enough respect to his name for being probably the best wide receiver in college football. I mean, there's a couple of guys out there that are in the mix, and he's definitely one of them. Bijan Robinson probably plays with a chip on his shoulder, So I like the fire. I think Sark can inspire his team to play a little bit meaner and more ferocious this season, and kind of go in with not a ton of expectations. We have that Bama game in week 2, and yes, it's going to be a true test, but the same time, it's like, let's just go in there and don't have any crazy expectations. Let's just play the best football we can and see if we can come out on top.
I think the one thing to put into consideration is that we're right outside, right? Like, if the
we're 27.
We're so close, and it very likely we could be going into that Bama game ranked. It's a high possibility, depending on what happens with these other teams in their first week. The interesting thing to me is that the ACC has 5 teams in the top 25. And the Big 12 only has 3, right? We've got Oklahoma, Baylor, and Oklahoma State, all between that 8 and 12 range. So they're being given good credit. And I think, we're obviously the 4th team from the Big 12. I think we all knew that. But the 5 ACC teams, that's the puzzling thing to me. Because if you line up the Big 12 with the ACC, at least in the last 5 years, you take out Clemson, you take out OU. The Big 12 is normally a better conference.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We shit on the ACC quite a bit on this podcast. Besides Clemson and the occasional Louisville, there's not a lot going on in that conference.
I think Miami can make a turn with Cristobal. I think Clemson is due for a bounce. I think they completely underwhelmed. We thought Ongalele was going to be the next big thing. They have Brian Bresci, Miles Murphy on the defensive line. I mean, they have some talent on defense. And yeah, they lose Venables to Oklahoma, but I think this is a team that's at least going to finish in the top 10 this year and is due for a bounce back. But I'm with you, Toss. Like, where's K-State's love? I feel like they're going to have some talent this year. Deuce Vaughn, talk about a guy playing with a chip on his shoulder. He's probably one of the best also running backs in the nation, and he gets no love, no credit. But if you're talking about putting a chip on your shoulder, I mean, we should have a Pringles stack at this point. We go into every year with high expectations, and year after year, we fall short. At what point are you going to be like, I'm sick and tired of this, and go out there? We should go out to the Alabama game and punch them in the mouth. You're coming into our house with the number 1 ranked team. First of all, they've Georgia, who beat them last year. The turnover is too much for people in the AP poll. Georgia's no longer ranked number 1. You have Ohio State, who I think Ohio State could be the most prolific offense. I'm curious to see what they could do defensively. I think the pass rush of Alabama will ultimately be strong for our novice, now inexperienced with, again, our center going down. Offensive line at Texas, I think that's going to be a very, very big issue. But we should make that a tight game. You should go into that game wanting to beat Alabama and create an upset and create a stir. We could very well easily be ranked in the 20s by the time we get to that weekend. Cincinnati opens up in a ranked game. They're 23. Obviously, their turnaround's major. They open up against Arkansas, who they're at 19. I'm curious to see what kind of moves they can make. Wisconsin with Braylon Allen, really another talented running back. There's just like a lot of interesting tests. Like I was looking at the week 1 schedule now. It's dropped. Notre Dame versus Ohio State. I mean, we're really going to see what type of team. I think it's a bit of an early test for Notre Dame. New head coach. I'd be more curious to see this matchup, obviously, in November. But I think this is going to be a really big prove-it game for Ohio State to show how dominant they can be. But there's a lot of really big games now, week 1, that we've seen how things are shaking out officially in the AP poll. So Cincinnati, Arkansas, Georgia versus Oregon. People forget that the quarterback of Oregon is Bo Nix. Can the change of scenery really do it for him? Utah's ranked 7. They're a packed. Yeah, probably not. I actually like Utah this year. I like Cameron Rising, a guy who was a Longhorn at one point. But they open up against Florida. Like a Florida team again. Billy Napier's there now. Like, what can that team do? I think there's a lot of big questions in college football, and I'm hoping like this is the first time I've looked at Alabama, and this could be me being overzealous and quite frankly wishful thinking. But I think this OU team is going to surprise some people, and they're at 9. Michigan was in there, and I know there was a big turnover there, but I still think they're going to be competitive. They're at the 8. I think there's going to be some teams this year, USC, A&M. I'm kidding. The NC State at 13 is – if NC State's in the top 15 by year's end, I mean, that was a surprise. I mean, we'll see, though. But I think that Tennessee team, we talk about another team on the outside looking in with Hendon Hooker, a really talented quarterback. I think that Tennessee team has a chance to get in the mix. And my dark horse, obviously, is Ole Miss.
Yeah, I like Ole Miss a lot, too. And, they definitely won in terms of the SEC for the transfer portal. I mean, getting Zach Evans there is huge. Getting Jackson Dart there is huge. Just a program that has been on the rise that has, a really nice past in terms of what they've done. But, hopefully Lane Kiffin can bring Hottie Toddy back But it's always a gauntlet in the SEC, so you never know what happens. Those teams could definitely fall to the big dogs. They got to win some of those big games to be in the big dance.
Yep.
But shifting gears a little bit, you talked about Zach Wilson a little bit, and I just feel bad for the kid because this entire offseason has just been negative for him, right? I mean, yes, of course, people definitely gave him props and kudos for the whole MILF hunting perspective of, sleeping with his mom's friend. But now some more negative news comes out. He gets hurt in a preseason game and he's getting a second opinion in California. But, I was really hoping that this would be the year that he starts to kind of flourish with all that extra confidence that he might have and all those new toys that he has. They went out and drafted Garrett Wilson, and Elijah Moore gets another year under his belt with him. Of course, a second year for Saleh. So it's kind of tough to see that happen, but I really hope that he can bounce back and come back from this injury maybe halfway through the season.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Brees Hall. I mean,
Yeah.
they got a day 2 back as well. Obviously, we all liked Michael Carter and what he could do as a pass catcher last year, but it was, I don't want us to lose sight of it was supposed to be a step forward, but we weren't going to be thrilled with what we saw offensively. I think that for him, he still has a lot of he had and still does have, whether he's healthy or not, has a lot of issues to correct from a taking care of the ball perspective. That was a huge thing for him. And
threw 11 picks to 9 TDs last year.
Yeah. But I'm with you, Nick. I feel like we were all more excited to watch him than we are to watch Trevor Lawrence, and he was the first quarterback taken, which is, I mean, I'm not surprised. Same thing with Justin Fields, even though Nagy's no longer there, but I'm still not chomping at the bit to watch more Bears offense.
No, and of the teams that took quarterbacks last year, the Niners were ready to take a quarterback. Clearly, they're a competitive team. The Patriots were ready to take a quarterback. The Jaguars were not. Evidence.
They're still not.
Still, I mean, dude, when was the last time a team had back-to-back first overall picks? That's how bad they were. Yeah, their coach was a major issue. They fired their coach in his first year mid-season, but their roster was still atrocious. They don't draft well. Their owners got way too much hands in the pie. And now we're talking about the Bears, who moved up to get Fields, who I think is talented. They can't put anything around him. Their defense is mediocre. They've already had a coaching change. And with the Jets, Brady Quinn was I feel like there was a lot of offseason hype and people expecting Zach Wilson to make that next jump. And Brady Quinn's he doesn't see it. And I'm kind of with him. I wasn't really ever I was trying to make myself impressed. I felt time and time again last year with Zach Wilson, when in reality, I was this is exactly going exactly how I thought it would go. Meh. When they were so locked in on him at the second overall pick, after Justin Fields' college career, after Mac Jones was dominant, Trey Lance's intangibles, I just never saw it with this guy, and they weren't ready to take. Not to mention they weren't ready to take a QB.
You look at the team that's going through hard knocks right now, right? And you can knock Dan Campbell as much as you want, but the fact of the matter is the Detroit Lions, PFF has their offensive line as a top 5 offensive line in football right now. They decided to make an impact in the last 2 years on the draft on the line first, defensively this past year and 2 years ago offensively. And now they're in a position where they're ready to actually take that step forward. And I think that, some people are blowing smoke up their ass a little bit too. I don't think they're going to be that good, right? But we do expect them to win more games than they did last year. And part of it is because they're more competitive on the line, and they've got a veteran QB, Jared Goff, who's been to a Super Bowl. And it's exactly to your point, Josh. You don't have to have that go-to QB to turn things around for your franchise. The rest of it has to be built. The foundation has to be built elsewhere, and then you slot a guy in. And I think a lot of people expect Trey Lance to be good this year because the other pieces around him, he would be it's tough when you have George Kittle and Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk and Elijah Mitchell, along with an incredible line, best left tackle in football, Trent Williams. If he doesn't succeed, it's very easy to look at him and go okay, he's either not ready or he doesn't have the talent, right? Because what's around him is, for any other quarterback that's a top 15 quarterback in the league, they would find success with that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think his offense is just so sound. It's every year. It's very efficient. It kind of reminds me of like why I don't necessarily think the Patriots are going to be great, but I don't think they're going to falter too much because their game plan is get out, run the football, control the clock, don't make many mistakes, get in the game, get out of the game. Why are we there for 4 or 5 hours? You know? And so like Shanahan, they run the ball exceptionally well. Kittle's an unbelievable blocking tight end. Like look at the Dallas Cowboys, Martin, Frederick, DeSmith, like first round pick on the offensive line after first round pick on the offensive line. They took Dak in the 4th round, and he's still their quarterback. Go across the league. Honestly, like it's just so ironic. It's just so weird to me. Like who's the first? Got to take a quarterback first overall, quarterback second overall. Look at Goff, Wentz. Are they on their original teams? Mariota, Winston. Like you know what I'm saying? Trevor Lawrence is already like really, 12 touchdowns to 17 picks last year. We'll see how he does in a second. Like the whole, like, you got to take the quarterback. No, you don't.
Yep. You're a draft expert. Who's the last quarterback to go number 1 overall that's still on their team? Is there anyone? Cam Newton's not with his team anymore, right?
Cam Newton moved. Stafford moved. Bradford didn't really last that long with the Rams. Obviously, there's guys, I'm trying to think, like off the top of my head, like guys that went number 1. Carr didn't work out, and the Texans. Palmer.
The last guy retired, right?
Eli.
Peyton.
Wasn't Luck a number 1 pick?
Eli was drafted by the Chargers.
Yeah, he was with the Giants. Like, you know what I'm saying? Yes, he was drafted by the Chargers, but he was with the Giants for his whole career. Luck was with the Colts his whole career, but he ended his career early. The number 2 pick in that draft, which they gave up, the whatever, they were the Redskins at the time. Now the football team, the Commanders, the Washington team gave up an arm and a leg to go get RG3 and were bailed out because I'll give him a little credit. Someone had the wherewithal in that draft to also draft Kirk Cousins. That was smart. And that ended up working out for them. But time and time again, these teams that are not ready go and get a quarterback, or they get the wrong quarterback in some instances. Like we talk about all the time, the Bears. I just think the Jets. If you're drafting in the top 5, by and large, Bengals aside, you got a lot of holes. I think for the Chargers, it's a little different, because they weren't too far removed from contention. They still had some pieces in Los Angeles. They had just taken a couple steps back, and their move to go get a quarterback works out.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the Dolphins had drafted well enough prior and post Tua to go get a QB. The Jets had not drafted extremely well in this last decade. Clearly, they're always picking towards the top.
Mm-hmm.
They made it was the last time they played us with Sanchez. Like they almost did with Fitzpatrick, but then they flopped at the very last minute. I just think this was a football team that wasn't ready to take a quarterback. It would have benefited them to take a defensive player. They took 2 defensive guys in the 31st round picks this year, Jermaine Johnson and Sauce Gardner. So we'll see how those guys slot in. I mean, the real thing for the Jets is can Saleh turn around the defense because he's a defensive guy. That's the thing we got to look at it from the New York Jets. Like they can go get Jimmy G, but at the end of the day, like they've signed Dwayne Brown. Mekhi Becton's not working out, unfortunately, with a knee injury. I give him credit for trying in the draft. I just think the Wilson pick, Hines then and now is a bad pick. I just don't think they were really ready, man. I think it was misplaced, and I think it's unfortunate for certain guys. How many times do we also talk about this? It matters where you end up as a quarterback. I mean, Jason Campbell's come on our show and said it. Like Josh Rosen, obviously, is not great, but like he had 1 year to do it in Arizona, and that was it. You're done.
Yeah.
The first over, they weren't going to pass on Kyler. He's probably the guy that's still there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, he is.
That's doing it. Because Baker's gone, Darnold's gone. It's crazy, right? Like you really people put all their stock and trick themselves into the quarterback being the guy. And then all of a sudden you find yourself and you're like, oh my God, I should have picked a defensive guy.
It's the number 1 position for busts, I think. Maybe that and cornerbacks. I think those, like, we see so many cornerbacks, like I say this all the time. They go high in the draft and they end up being not good in the league. I mean, D. Milliner, Morris Claiborne, Darkos Denard, like all these guys are first round draft picks. But same thing with quarterback. Like it's really a crapshoot because I think the adjustment is really tough to go from college to NFL. I think when you're going, like when you're on the line or when you're a running back or even your receiver, like the adjustment isn't that difficult because if you're a talented receiver, you're a talented receiver. You're fast, you got hands, those are something that you're going to have from high school to the NFL.
Sure.
If you're a talented running back, you've got the size, you've got the speed, you've got the agility, that's always going to translate. O-line, D-line, like usually those guys that are taken in the first round or second round, they know that they're going to be good because they've got the size, they've got the strength, Now with quarterbacks and with cornerbacks, the drop off from college to the NFL talent that they're supposed to guard is so much different. And with quarterbacks, the guys they're playing against on defense is so much different. I mean, they're playing against 11 NFL players opposed to playing in college against maybe sometimes 2, 3, if you're playing against Bama, like 6 NFL players.
Well, you're bringing up the point. That's the whole kicker. Zach Wilson didn't do any of that. But at BYU. If you're going to take, like the Jets didn't take Josh Allen because the learning curve was quote unquote too high from him to, and we saw it. Like there was a learning curve for as good as he is now, and he's amazing. Mm-hmm. There still was like accuracy questions.
Oh yeah.
There was like
questions.
Yeah. There was stuff that like, there were still questions. The Buffalo Bills, again, another team that just really did a great job managing and putting a great team around him. But the Jets wanted to take Darnold. Apparently there was word on the street that everyone in the Jets building wanted Josh Allen, but they didn't want a project guy. They wanted a guy they thought was quote unquote ready. Wasn't.
Yeah. But even if you look back on it, like, they weren't at a place where they could take a quarterback then. So if they took Josh Allen and we're saying that it depends where you land, are we sitting here and saying that Josh Allen is also a bust? Like can't really look back and say that because I don't know. Like, is he going to have the offensive minds and the weapons around him to go off and flourish? Probably not.
Well, they really loved Darnold because remember they were picking at the 6. They move up from the 6 to the 3 with 3 second-round picks to take Darnold. They could have just stayed at the 6 and gotten Josh Allen regardless, unless someone else moved up there. It's just you really going back to it. You have to have the right system in place. It's like it's lightning in a bottle sometimes for these quarterbacks.
Yeah,
like you have to.
Thank God for Josh Allen.
That draft would have been screwed.
It's just so interesting because it's like we really circumstances everything. We really can't confidently say that if Josh Allen was the quarterback for the New York Jets, that he would be the same guy that he is today. And now
no chance.
Which is wild because a lot of people are saying he's the best. He's got the highest odds to win MVP. Like he's the first overall quarterback taken in fantasy.
They're a favorite to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
He's a consensus top 5 quarterback in the NFL right now. And we still can't confidently say that he would be in the same position, that he would be the same guy if he was the New York Jets quarterback, if they had drafted him.
Is there anyone in the league, Mahomes, Herbert, Rodgers, anyone who got drafted by the Jets, would we be able to confidently say that they would be the same player?
If they were drafted by them? No, because their inability to develop is astounding. Look at everyone that they don't draft well. If you're the reason they're the Jets is because they don't draft well. The reason the Sacramento Kings are the Sacramento Kings is because they don't draft well. Like, you really need to be able to. It's no secret, man. Look at the Guardians. We're going all across the board here in sports. Well, the Guardians are first place in the AL Central. Wonder how that happened because they develop their guys. Okay, Kluber's gone. Cliffley's gone. We got Corey Kluber. All right, Kluber's gone. We got Shane Bieber. Shane Bieber, not what he was supposed to be. We have Tristan McKenzie.
Yeah.
We're talking about the prospects in baseball panning out. I was watching the Padres play the Nats. I'm sure, Nick, you were watching as well on Sunday. And the broadcaster said if 2 of those prospects hit, it's a successful trade. What do we think about that? Is that do you agree with that?
Well, yeah, because I think they were going to lose Juan Soto regardless of what happened. right? So like you might as well get what you can for him while the value's still high. I mean, the value is always gonna be high, but the amount of years that he has left, right? It's like 2.5 seasons. He's got this remaining season and the next two. So the value is never gonna be higher than right now. But yeah, I think if two of those prospects hits for sure. So if none of them hit, like, yeah, that sucks. But the odds are that at least one or two of them are going to hit. I mean, those are all top guys in the program, or the franchise. Two of them have already made their MLB debuts. CJ Abrams, Mackenzie Gore. They both had shown flashes of greatness. Gore started off really hot and then kind of, caught some woes, rookie woes. And then CJ Abrams has been up and down and had some good games here and there, but just needs more time in the bigs. And he just got called up again. And then there's Robert Hassel, who's a top prospect, and James Wood, who's a top prospect, and Harlan Sawanza. So, I mean, gosh, if all five of those guys pan out, that'd be awesome for them. But yeah, I mean, you can't really play like is the prospect going to pan out game, because it's all about the development of the franchise as well. I mean, the Padres never really do a great job of developing their talent. That's always been a thing for us as well. That's why we had to go out and trade for guys. Soto, I mean, even Tatis is a trade. Machado is a sign, Cronenworth was a trade. I think there was a graphic that was put out on Twitter like a few weeks ago. I forget by who, but I want to give them credit. But it basically broke down every MLB's team and every single starting player on like the diamond, and whether or not they were developed by the team or whether they were drafted or signed by the team. And like the Astros have like 7 or like 6 or 7 guys that were with the franchise from the beginning. Padres have like one guy.
You could give Tatis a little credit there because they traded for him as a minor leaguer.
Yeah, he was 17.
Yeah, you could give him a little credit. I'll give him credit on the Tatis. I mean, and why are the Astros always in it now? Like the Sox, for what it's worth, were doing a good job developing Devers and Bogaerts, so that was nice to see. You're hoping that the Rangers, now that they've had these big picks, can do the same. But it's very interesting. We could get into the Tatis situation that they go and get Soto before the Tatis news breaks. I'm curious to see if there would have been a bigger asking price if he had gotten suspended and then before the trade deadline, because they would have been way more desperate.
Well, they would have been way more desperate, but at the same time, maybe they wouldn't have done it. Maybe they would have just been like, well, this season might be a wash. We might as well wait till the offseason to make this trade if we have to, where the asking price is a little bit lower. Or we just ride it out with our current shortstop, CJ Abrams and Ha-Seong Kim, and see who continues to play there. So you never know. I mean, I'm kind of happy that the news broke when it did, because I'm so confident that this is a good playoff team. Are they a World Series contender? That's yet to be seen. But I think they've been playing some good baseball here, and Machado has looked energized. He just won NL Player of the Week. I mean, the guys that are protecting him on the bench now, or in the lineup now, are dangerous. Josh Bell and Drury have been great as well. But to get into the Tatis thing a little bit, there's just so many layers of this issue that bug San Diego fans and that bug baseball in general. I think when you look at the entire issue, it's very clear that the people in his corner, whether that's his agency, his marketing team, his family, that they are way too involved, and they are honestly hurting his reputation. He hasn't come out and said anything personally. Like, there was a statement on his behalf by the MLBPA that came out that initially had like the ringworm, claim that he had ringworm and that's why he took the steroid and he didn't know that it was in there. Okay, come on, dude. And then his mom posted a picture on her Instagram of Tatis with like a ringworm on his neck. Like, it could be anything. It could be a little scratch, whatever. Recently, today, it came out that his dad just said Tatis was taking, or Junior was taking a spray to combat a fungus that he got from a haircut. Like, stop digging your son into a bigger and deeper hole here. Like, can we just own the fact that they screwed up? I mean, you're already not appealing the 80-game suspension, so you're admitting the guilt right there. Mm-hmm. So like, what's the point of continuing to make these stupid lies? I get like you're trying to protect your son's reputation and his legacy so he can potentially get in the Hall of Fame one day, but like, he's 23 years old. Like, he's got so much left to prove. He's in the span of when he started, he made his debut, and to right now, he's missed more than half the regular season games that he's been under contract with the team. Like it's unfathomable how much lost baseball time that we have seen through injuries through Tatis and immaturity. And I go back to December motorcycle accident where this all started for the most part. They chose to hide from the team that he got into a motorcycle accident. His dad denied that he got into an accident. And they said, oh, well, he did get an accident, but it was minor. Well, it looks like he started taking a cream to hide the wounds or to heal faster that ended up having the steroid in it. And team doctors wouldn't go to the Dominican Republic because they said they didn't need to. They used Dominican doctors that said that he's fine and they're just minor injuries. Well, he gets to spring training in March and the team doctors say, dude, you need surgery. Your wrist is fucked up. Well, he gets his surgery. His surgery happens. The timetable for him to come back keeps getting pushed more further and further and further back. So maybe he takes the cream again to progress the healing process of his wrist. And then he gets popped for the test and then game over, 80-game suspension. So I would just wish they would just come out and own it, because I understand that the kid loves the game of baseball and he wants to get out there as fast as possible. But someone in his camp is giving very bad advice or is managing this whole situation very poorly. It just reminds me of a rich kid asking his daddy's lawyers for help all the time, or daddy's friends.
I want to acknowledge that it's difficult, right, for a guy like him to have a lot of people in his camp that are related to the roster that are like older vet guys, because when you're that good, that young, there's so much pressure that's put on you that a lot of times, like Luke Voigt telling him something in the dugout before he goes to Washington, maybe he's not even listening to him, right? Like maybe he's like, because he's like, I'm so good that I feel like I don't need to listen to any of these guys. It's not the same as a guy who's getting into the MLB or getting into the NFL or NBA who really has to work to stay a pro.
Yeah. And, well, you saw it last year in the dugout when Manny Machado yelled at him. It was over national news where he was saying, it's not about you. It's about the team. Just go out there and play baseball. Everyone knows you're the best player. Like you saw right there that Manny was frustrated how immature Tatis was being. And the team went through a terrible downfall. And yes, you can also point to the fact that we had a rookie manager who wasn't great and, he couldn't keep the team together. But this is the first time in a long time where I've seen multiple players come out and be outspoken about how disappointed they are with one of their teammates. Joe Musgrove, one of the team leaders, who just got a 5-year extension, hometown kid, doesn't have anything bad to say about anyone.
Hometown discount as well.
Hometown discount. So basically he can pay other guys. Mike Clevenger, who looks like the chillest guy in the world. He said he can throw a baseball 420 feet. Well, leave speculation to what that means. But probably one of the chillest guys on the team come out and said he's disappointed. AJ Preller, the general manager, come out and said he's disappointed and thought that there'd be maturity. They all said, like, this isn't the first time that they've been disappointed with him. They feel like he needs to grow up. Like, it's just so clear that the spotlight's too big for him. He's on the cover of MLB The Show. He's Dominican royalty because his dad was, a Dominican baseball player who played, over 9 years in the league. It's sad because you look at a guy like Juan Soto, who's doing everything right, who keeps himself pretty quiet in the media, always has a smile on his face, and supposed to be one of his best friends. And you see Tatis, who just came to stardom and just let the media eat it up.
The team wasn't good enough by the time he got there. The thing with Soto is that team was his rookie year. He won the World Series.
Yeah.
He was a part of it, but his rookie, that team was ready to go when he came up. Right. And some of these guys are coming up and these teams are like Devers came up and that team won the World Series. Like the team was ready to win the World Series.
Yeah.
And for Tatis, he exceeded the Padres. He was better than the Padres were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was better than the gap. You got to be better than the gap. To quote.
He was the weight of the team was thrown. The weight of the city, honestly, was thrown on his back way too quickly because the Chargers leaving. The Chargers leaving, leaves a huge void for sports fans in San Diego, and they're looking for anything to cling on to. And they see this young superstar who's 21 years old, who's lighting the world on fire, and he's the guy. He's the king of San Diego, right? Mm-hmm. So it's a lot for a 21-year-old, and now he's 23. I mean, 2 more years of maturity, but I think they want him to mature faster than it's really possible, and it's just going to come down to time.
Yeah.
We saw some mature stuff.
But Josh, I was just going to say on your Nationals point, how much of the conversation was about Strasburg? when that team was at its peak, right? Remember how many conversations we were having on this show week in, week out about his health and what he could do when he was at his best? And they had Zimmerman there, right? A guy who, unlike Eric Hosmer, who was not performing well at his old age, Zimmerman was for that team. And he had been the guy there for a long time. So it was just a completely different fabric of a team. And the conversation around the team was so different.
It's a very ironic team to bring up as well, because they also had a young superstar, teenage superstar at one point,
Bryce,
whose health, whose maturity, we also question a lot. But look at him now on the Phillies. Won the MVP on both teams. Now won the MVP on the Phillies. He's doing everything he can to get back to this team. And that team, by the way, is not messing around. The rest of the Padres roster, you're going to be in a wild card game. You're going to have Musgrove and Darvish. You could win both those games. You have to go into that confident as hell. Like that's winnable. You have Soto, Bell, Drury, Machado playing at an MVP like discussion level. Like Cronenworth's an all-star. Like this is a team that's ready to. I mean, as up and down as Hader's been, at least you have him at the back end. But if you go across the NL, go at all. Like look, you think the Mets are? Or do you think the Mets are looking at this and like, soaking up August, or do you think they're going, okay, we need to hold off the Braves and we need to get into the bye, because the team that comes out of the wild card against the Mets is already going to at least have spent their two best pitchers. And the number 3 guy at best has to go against Scherzer, and the number 1 guy or the number 4 guy potentially has to go against the DeGrom-nator. The Mets are locked in. The Braves just won the World Series. The Phillies are locked in. The Phillies have been better without Harper, and they lost their manager. Cardinals, the Brewers, they're dogging it out. The rest of this Padres team is ready to go. And the fact that Tatis Jr. has twice this year, and his camp, the whole biggest point is the camp. How many times do we see a bad camp around a young kid and they blow it for the guy? Wrong advice. It is I even remember when he was on the show, we were like, it's a lot real quick. It's a lot real quick. Like
people calling him the face of baseball. I mean, like I've been guilty of saying it, calling him the face of baseball last year.
Yeah. I mean, we were ready to crown him
22
king.
years old.
It's just, I don't know. We see it all the time though. Like he
legally came and rent a car under his own name.
Yeah, I mean, look, he could turn this thing around, and hopefully this is the kick in the ass that he needs. But there are a lot of teams out there this season and players and pros. Look at Goldschmidt.
Yep.
I know he's older, but he's a vet. You think Goldschmidt's fucking around this year? No way. No way. Machado?
He's never won a World Series. He wants it. He thinks it's the best shot he's ever had.
Yeah, of course it is.
Machado too. None of these guys have won World Series. These are all vets.
Machado's matured greatly. So that gives me hope for Tatis, because Machado was a guy when he was in Baltimore, there was maturity issues. He goes to the Dodgers. And I mean, think about how the Padres fans felt, but people felt about him when he was in the Dodgers. And he comes to the Padres, and now he's taken over this ball club. And even like Snell, who was like fully, like, it seemed like Snell was like still pissed to the Rays all of last season. Like, it's hard not to buy into this Padres team if you're a member of the club. Yeah. Like, this is a lot. There's a lot of vets there. And I think this is a team that can like, again, like, it's going to be unfortunate they're stuck in the wild card. I think the Dodgers, as good as they've been, and they've been unbelievable, and they are the best team in baseball right now, I still think they're beatable. The Yankees look bad. They lost the series to the Sox this past weekend. They got shut out by the Red Sox on Sunday. Got shut out by Michael Wacha. You got the MVP in your lineup. Got shut out by Michael Wacha.
Yeah, crazy. The Yankees have been very, very bad. I mean, they've got some definite issues to address here pretty soon. Trying to look at their last 30-game record. They're
2-8, dude. They're like 9-11.
Games.
Oh, the last 30 games, not good. Like, I mean, there's teams like the Rays, the Jays, the Guardians, like whoever makes it out of the Central. To me, the Astros are going to win the World Series.
11-19, last 30 games.
The Astros are going to win the World Series, dude. Because what's going to happen is this Yankees team is going to get the bye. They're going to be good.
This Dodgers team's good too. I mean, they just lost Walker Buehler for the rest of the year, but
It's a gauntlet in the NL, bro. Look at the NL teams, dude.
Yeah, if they make it by, though, I mean,
Dodgers, the Mets, y'all, the Braves, the Phillies, whoever makes it, the Cardinals and the Brewers are gonna I was ready to count the Brewers out. The Brewers are still in the mix.
I'm saying we thought it was a gauntlet last year too. It was the same, pretty much the same NL, and the Braves won the World Series.
Exactly. And we were talking about them making trades at the deadline. Anybody could come out of the NL and they're gonna eat each other alive. The Mets and the Dodgers, if they meet, how many games do you think that's going to if they meet in the NLCS?
I don't know.
Be a lot. How many y'all? Like anybody could come in there. I think the Astros are going to beat the Mariners. They're going to kick the shit out of them. They're going to kick the shit out of the Jays of the Rays.
Yeah,
it's Verlander. It's crazy. All right. Shout outs to our families, but also our sponsors. Go to betonline.ag. Use the promo code BELIEVE, 50% off. Put money on the Astros to win the World Series. Don't know what their odds are at the top of my head, but go do that. It'd be great. Sonos. Go to Sonos.
Hooray.
Right?
Sonos
Ray. It's amazing. We all use it. I can control it from my phone. For some reason, my roommate can't figure it out. So I get to play volume on while she's watching TV. And she's like, "Can you make it a little lower?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." And I turned it to like 1 out of 100. Like, how's that? Good. But the Sonos Ray has been unbelievable. Go to Sonos. Make
the sound has been nasty.
It's been nasty. It's been amazing.
It's
been awesome.
Ray.
And check us out on Stadium. Yeah, go watch Stadium. We're on 7 times a week on the weekends. It's a really great show. People like it. I thought people were like, Bob Papa likes it, so you guys got to go like it.
Yeah,
you know?
There's an app on smart TVs. You can go check it out there. Our first episode, usually of the week, comes out on Friday at, I think this week it's 11 p.m. Eastern, correct?
Mm-hmm.
After the high school football game of America on Friday night.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Go check it out. Fans out there, drag both amounts. We're going to full count with the puck at the putt. Which PKs because they're free and free throws. Why, guys?
Because they're free.
They're free. We out you. We love you.